Hi, this is Croc with MVP, Hot 6 support player, mostly 5th position player, Heen. How's it going, Heen?
Well, can't say it's all good. We've not had the most satisfying run in the group stages, but we're trying to recover and regain our confidence.
I don't want to talk much about the performances and sort of maybe just talk about your next instant goal, which is I think facing off IG. In what way are you prepared for that? Have you got any pointers from maybe MVP Phoenix because they beat IG 2-0?
Yeah, I think it's really great to talk to Phoenix because if we just look at IG's replays and just try to dissect them, it's kind of hard because we don't really we weren't in that game. But Phoenix is a team that we know best, and if when they beat IG, I think it's easier to relate to them and imagine what kind of what kind of thinking they had in the game and what was how they were approaching the game that let them win the game. So our immediate goal for now is just to fully 100% concentrate on beating IG. Psychologically it's best of one, and on paper I think most teams would consider IG stronger and the team that should go further in this tournament, so I guess the pressure is on them. We just have to be confident, not be pressured, and just hope for the best. It's the best of one. I can't really say too confidently, but it can happen. Anything can happen, and we can beat any opponent in this tournament if we play confidently.
Also, in this tournament, if I know it right, Black has been coaching both the MVP squads in some capacity. How do you think that has affected your team's performance, or in general, what has Black's role been in MVP?
Well, I think, first of all, Black is our coach exclusively for the Hot 6. He doesn't really tell us better ways to play the game. He's been with us, living with us for a month or so. He's been watching a lot of us, so he knows how well we can play and what we are capable of. So he lets us know at what point in the game that we weren't our usual selves, and when we started going downhill. And he doesn't just point out mistakes. He tells us stuff like, I think you started losing confidence after this fight or something, and he tries to. He's been at more major tournaments than us, so he's a more seasoned player, and he tries to give us a lot of advice. Having gone through this experience, it's without a doubt the skill is not. It's not even half of what it takes to survive in this tournament. It's confidence, mentality, trust with your teammates, and we have the skill to beat so many of these teams that we're facing. Just the other parts are seriously lacking right now, and he's trying to help us regain that. He's also he's played at top level, so he can kind of relate to us, and when we lose, what kind of mentality we must be in. And, he's trying to be supportive.
He's best able to empathize with the situation because he's been in the field so long. So would you say that more or less most of the teams participating here are on a equal skill level, just individual skill level? It's just the confidence and the teamwork that has to be built up. like individual skill, is that something that has been set at a benchmark that is like sort of equivalent for most of the players here?
I think as time goes by in Dota, the skill gap between competitive teams decrease, as in like just individual skills like laning skills, mechanical skills. If anything, this TI is like the closest of between all teams of like the skill. Maybe in the previous TIs, teams tended to win simply because they were just better. Like one team might have a better strategy, but the team who had more solid fundamentals and just basic discipline was able to just ignore that and win. But now it's more about how to like actual teamwork, synergy with the lineup, and like having confidence in your draft and the timings. That's much more important now, I think.
So this year's international has been really actually much better than last year's international for the players in terms of isolation and privacy. You have complete privacy to practice. There's no interference from anyone. You have dedicated practice rooms dedicated to you. In all this, the press has sort of been left out. And by press, I basically mean just community press that exists in Dota since the early days. Do you think that there's a better way to establish an engagement between the players and the sort of press people, just to sort of keep the content coming in some ways or the other? I mean, I understand the pressure is too much, but do you think this could have been handled better, or are you completely satisfied with this year's arrangement?
Well, as a player, it's hard to put myself in the shoes of like the community press or such, but I do agree that we are slightly maybe too isolated. We're just like completely untouched here. But at the same time, the practice rooms are private, and like it's so much nice having like a base, in Seattle. I suppose like the players are often coming out to have meals and break. There's a lounge where players can play ping pong, and having the community have some access to those parts might allow them to naturally interact with players when they're in a more social setting. Because practice rooms are like, as you say, practice rooms, and if you try to intrude that area, then it's the players won't feel too welcoming of the idea of like being exposed.
Of course, I mean, I assume you're hinting towards the Gamify incident last year that sort of exposed the DK drafting strategies. Do you think that played an important role in Valve taking such a drastic measure this year?
Well, I think it was just so incident. I think just players in general. I mean, I as a player, honestly, this year is like privacy is so convenient. I think Valve took into more consideration what the players demand from a tournament and would prefer. It's not about preventing mishaps or like unfortunate incidents. It's because like this tournament is so important to players, and they're already under so much stress. Like they need some kind of like place to fall back to, because last year it was like way too exposed. There was a hotel room and that was it. Pretty much like you were public property.
Going into the tournament, and looking back at the tournament, in fact, do you have any regrets or any afterthoughts that maybe you could have done something in a different way and changed the course of your team at this point, at this juncture in the tournament?
I think we had a lot of phases throughout this tournament. You know, we doubted our draft, and we doubted like a lot of things that we were attempting, but it was never about that. It was always about confidence and probably going back. I mean, I think it's really, our team is very momentum based. I think we do have the skill, but like the skill comes under certain conditions. I think I would have tried maybe like extra hard to somehow have a good day one, like, you know, win all the games, and then like the team is like just overwhelmed with confidence, and like, you know, you don't have to worry about what comes next. Like it's autopilot from there, and like how like we played every game to win for sure, but like you know, just extra preparation, and like, because you know, when you start losing, I mean, these opponents are so good that like you don't even feel that bad about losing to them. Like it's like the ego is never a factor, but it definitely still kills your confidence though.
What do you think would be what would happen if a Korean team was to win the international? How would Korea react to it, and how would it affect the Dota 2 scene in Korea?
In all honesty, even if we won, I mean, the Korean community would be excited, but Dota in Korea might not change all that much because you just need a lot of fans and user base to like have a big scene, and I'm not sure if like people who aren't so familiar with Dota will be you know, that much excited that, you know, a Korean team won. You know, they might be a little, you know, interested, but like how much can they relate to that? You know, they have to have love for the game in the first place. But yeah, it'll help, I suppose. You know, even people who don't know Dota, they seem to sometimes know about TI because of its scale and like, you know, its prestige.
So, and last year, like, you've already had a massive improvement in terms of the number of teams. Like last year you were one single team that came in, and this year you're actually two teams and competing in the major part of the tournament. Have you seen or have you perceived any growth over the last year in the Korean Dota 2 scene?
Frankly, no. I think it's just that our teams just got better, but like the scene in Korea is still pretty much the same. It's like it's way too top heavy. I think only the MVPs are getting better. I don't even know what the teams there are in Korea because like we haven't played in the Korean leagues now for quite some time, and players in Korea are like, I feel like they sort of lack motivation, but you can't really blame them for it because there's no real scene to work with. They'd have to just like accept that they have to play in the C region instead of, there's no such thing as Korea.
Don't you have like a Nexon exclusive client that gives you something like the Perfect World client? Don't you have anything coming from Nexon and special servers?
Yeah, we have the Korean server, but I mean it's like not very high in population, and well,
do you see that as one of the reasons why, I mean, basically within Korea having some good competition and some good scrimming partners would bring the game up, but do you see yourself forced to sort of play on other servers, and does that hamper your growth in any way?
I can definitely say it does. I think playing, you know, the best teams if possible is always good. One thing we mentioned was, you know, if only Korea had like about 8 teams that were like you know, like on MVP level of like ambition and like, you know, try hardness, then it would kind of be like a we would have like a ecosystem of Dota in Korea where like just these like 8 teams would just play each other and learn from each other, and it would be so much faster growth than 2 teams, and we would catch up to the world pretty faster. We do think that would have been nice.
So let's say that if MVP wasn't to have a training ground in Korea, and if you would prefer to sort of put your base camp at, let's say, Europe or China, what region would you choose, and like why?
I think I would choose Europe. I choose Europe because I feel like Europe is also, before like the days when China was the only powerhouse in Dota are kind of gone, and Europeans I feel adapt faster than the Chinese. The Chinese do adapt, but I feel like they are more reserved in adapting. So I think it's important to play opponents that are actively thinking and like criticizing their own playstyle to see if there are more improvements they can make. Faster adapting opponents are just like always refreshing to play. They're always you think you have them figured out and you never do, and you just keep getting better.
That's interesting. Now, like, just to conclude with something, looking forward, you still have your chances at the big shot, the title, but what have you figured out so far? That's probably, what are the key points that that these have to be improved upon as a team? Clearly, I mean, you're at the bottom of the table. You must have done some analysis of yourself. Maybe just 3 things that that are surely something you guys want to work on.
We can't be pressured to do something in the game. We can't be pressured to forcefully make an initiative because we haven't done anything in the game. It has to be natural. Whenever we try to do something because we think we have to do it, it just turns out bad, and it can't be a coincidence. After we watch replays and we would watch a replay, and back here we were saying that we should do something, and this happened, like something bad happened, and we watched a game where we did really well, and like it was like people were just playing the game. It was just like there didn't need to be so much active thinking because like people were in the zone, and it was naturally set up. So it can't be pressured. It has to be natural. We should take into consideration that sometimes like TI is like where it's a battle of the metas. Like people will come up with what is this patch, and people will play a certain style, and we should think about what are the teams that have been having success in this tournament. And as I mentioned earlier, individual skill the skill gap isn't that big, so the way they approach the game has to be smarter, and we can maybe learn from that, I think. And lastly, it's just confidence, I think. The easy way to put it is we can't be afraid to lose. We shouldn't even think about losing. Just like our desire to win has to be so strong that like being afraid to lose doesn't even enter the mind. I think when we play in less major tournaments against in tournaments where we're more closer to the favorites, we're not afraid to lose. We're just out there to win, and we just play better.
So it's just like the part of psychology that affects you when you face off against big names, and putting into perspective, you're facing some of the biggest names in China, literally legends like Burning, Chuan, Ferrari 430, Faith, Luo in IG. How are you going about it? Like, has there been any sort of a psychological preparation? Is there a pep talk that maybe Black does? I know he's really good at those, probably, looking at the energy he has most of the times. But how are you putting in some special sauce of his?
I'm actually not worried about us being too scared of the big names. It's more like it has been this way in this tournament so far, but like we're scared of losing because TI is a once in a year thing, and like it's every time we lose to see our like dreams are kind of like getting further and further away. It's not who we're playing, it's like what we're playing for is being challenged every time we lose, and we're being scared of it. So, you know, the fact that we're playing IG is not important. It's the fact that we're playing IG in the losers bracket, and like we may be dropped out of the tournament. That's the big issue.
So the key takeaway is probably play to your strength, do not get intimidated, play your game without the fear of consequences. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I suppose.
Do you have any messages for like the South Asian scene? Because like I'm from India, and I've been working like since about 7 years for DOTA. Our region in itself has not had much growth, or not many big names have emerged, sort of made a splash. What advice can you give from Korea? Because clearly you guys picked up DOTA 2 way later into the scene, and we're still not able to put out even one team as a collective region. Do you have any suggestions, tips, or advice for the teams that are trying to prepare themselves for the world stage?
I mean, it's often the teams are short-lived in the SEA region. They will switch players a lot, and switching players is very natural actually. Like it's new season, new players. You can't really help it, but I feel like people have to have more long-term goals. I feel they have to be patient. When our team started, we were struggling so much in like a very non-major tournaments, like these like tournaments that don't even get recorded on like DOTA Buff, for example. We were losing these games, and we were quietly, we weren't even being noticed by the world, but we didn't give up, and we persevered, and it doesn't take that long to just a little bit of more patience, and the growth is kind of like exponential, I think, for a team usually after a certain point, and I think just teams have to realize that.
I think you've made some excellent points. Do you have any final shout-outs you want to give?
Shout out to former MVP brothers, like Jubei, Raji, Musica. Coming here as like the two MVP teams, it reminds me of like the former players that were in our organization. Shout out to them.
Do you miss your players, your teammates from the earlier times of how Korea in DOTA 1?
Yeah, sort of. I kind of keep up with them, but I miss those days. Yeah, that team had its own charm. Of course, we weren't as serious back then, but playing with them was very enjoyable, and I miss that.
Thank you so much, Heen, and I wish you all the best for your further playoff stages at the key arena, and I really hope you do well. You seem like a really thought out guy, and I really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you.
I enjoyed talking to you too.
Thanks a lot. It's always good to talk to you. How's
what's going on?
It's